All right, so we're back to do another little tutorial video here for Studio One. This is going to be basically, in a nutshell, taking a MIDI track or a MIDI file and exploding it out and making it into a resource that you can use to practice or track your instrument against. I gear this towards drummers because that's what I do. So anyways, I'm going to get started here just by showing you guys there's some resources out there for free MIDI files. They're everywhere. I use one called MIDI DB, not because I have anything to do with them, but just because they've been reliable. So I'm going to go straight into this, and I'm going to go into Michael Jackson. As you can see, there's all different kinds of themes. You can go to rock, and then there's all kinds of artists. You can scroll down, and you can pick anything from Deftones. Sometimes there's only a couple songs in there. It depends on the people, who the artist is. But anyways, I'm going to go in here to Michael Jackson, and you might be asking what a MIDI file is, or maybe you don't know what a MIDI file is. Well, I'll just give you the 2-second spiel. It's basically the performance data captured digitally. So somebody on a keyboard, a digital keyboard, MIDI keyboard, recorded their performance and into multiple tracks, just like we record tracks into Studio One with audio. Well, you can do the same thing to a MIDI keyboard, and that's called a sequencer. So Studio One has a sequencer in it as well as audio recording capabilities, and that's why they call it a DAW, digital audio workstation. So anyways, enough blabbing. So I'm going to pick this track here and play it, and it'll just play in Safari here and you'll hear it. I'm going to skip it forward just to get somewhere in the middle here. Yeah, pretty awesome. Or not. So right now you're probably wanting to change this to another video that might be more entertaining, but so check it out. Before you do that, just hang tight for a sec. So I'm going to download this file, download linked file, boom, okay, and then I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to go over to where my downloads are there, and I'm just going to hit new. Actually, what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and go to Studio One. Let's just get rolling. So Studio One loads in no time flat, and I got it configured for the built-in output so you guys can hear what's going on. And I'm going to go ahead and say open file, and I'm going to go down to where my downloads go, and there's the file right there. Okay, and it says you want to load general MIDI sounds. I'm going to go ahead and say no, because I'm going to show you guys a different way to do it. You can choose this, and it'll load up what its factory sounds that are closest to resembling what the MIDI track calls for. But I'm going to say no. And so it just basically opened up an edit window for me. If I open up a mix window, I don't have anything down there because these are just MIDI files. And if you actually look at them in a larger format, you can see the little dots in there. Those represent the different notes and the note values. Like this is longer section here is a longer held note. This is a more staccato note. And these are like, looks like channel 1. That's usually the keyboard part. So I'm going to say these are the chords on the keyboard. So to make a long story short, you can see they're not assigned anything because there's nothing for them to go to. So if I hit play right now, which would be the same thing if you hit play and had this going on, you don't hear anything, and that's right, because there's nothing that these files are triggering to create the sound. So that's what we're going to do next, is we're going to start building it, and I'll show you how you can break these sounds out and then add your own choice of patches and whatnot right into this deal. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a couple of them, and then I'll jump forward into one that I've already basically gone through and done a bunch of stuff to. So just to get you started and show you how the patching works. It's real simple in Studio One. So basically I'm going to go ahead and go to my browser, and I'm going to go to my instruments. And I've got several different ones. I think that Contact 4 demo comes, or like a light version comes with the software. I'm going to go ahead and use Contact 5, and I'm going to use one that has multiple sets of outputs, 16 outputs actually. And I'm going to go ahead and drag this down below all of these MIDI files. So what it's going to do is create a track by me dropping it in on anywhere in here. and basically you can see now it opened up the plugin window, and it's all empty. There's nothing in here. Still, if I play it, I'm not going to get anything. I got nothing coming through because I don't have any sounds loaded yet. I just have my module up. This is going to be like our virtual keyboard, if you will, or virtual sampler is what it is. So in here, I've got different sounds loaded up. So we're going to go ahead and look at track number 1. I'm pretty sure that that's going to be the keyboard track. It looks like it starts around bar 10. And so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and say, I've got this sampler loaded up. You can see it down here. It created a fader in my mixer for the sampler. And you'll notice down here too that if I actually expand the little miniature part of the instrument section, I can actually enable more sets of outputs to be able to route stuff, different instruments to different sets of outputs. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So anyways, to get started on this, we're going to go to the top channel, which I believe is the keyboard channel. And if I click now where it said none before, now my contact 5 is showing up and it says 16 out because that's what I have it set up for, to be able to support up to 16 audio outs from that module. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then next to it now pops up a smaller box that isn't there previously, and this is your channel assignment button. And basically there's 16 channels in MIDI, and you'll actually find that these modules will support even more channels, up to 64 channels of input coming into them, so they can be configured in multiple ways. So anyways, at this point we're going to assign this as channel 1, and at this I have the playhead parked here right before this starts, and I'm going to go ahead and just I'm going to pull up just an electric piano, just like a Rhodes, something simple, and so I'm going to do that just by double clicking this patch, and it loads it in, and here now I have my suitcase control. So if I have my playhead parked before it starts, let me go ahead and close my browser. And now you can see some stuff starts. And if I hit play now, since I have this assigned, and it's assigned to channel 1 here, MIDI channel 1. So this is like you can think of this as like a virtual version of a standalone, keyboard with a MIDI input and an output. So if I hit play now, now within the plugin, I'll play it again, but I can actually adjust the controls here for this individual instrument. Okay, so we got one instrument loaded, and judging by looking at this next one, it's going to be bass is going to be the next one. That's channel 2. Now again, we select that channel, we go straight to this pane, and we can go ahead and say contact again, because we're going to assign this same next track to the same module, and then we're going to load up the patch for that. So we're going to assign this to channel 2. Makes it real easy. It's pretty much like you're just going to stair step your way down channel 1 through however many tracks you got, and that's how we're going to build this. And at this point, I can go in and now load up a bass sound. I'll just go into this little. This is some of the sounds that come with contact selections. Let's just go into bass. Oops, there we go. Classic bass. So I'll just pick this one. It's pretty simple, and then you can actually adjust it. Now, we have that set to MIDI channel 2. It's going to the same set of outputs, which is fine for now, because we're not going to worry about that at this point. And then basically now if I play the track, we're going to have the bass and the keyboard. So now it's working, but there's something common that I've noticed in these MIDI files, and if you open up your information pane there, your info, in the bass, I found it really common that I've needed to come in here and transpose the bass an octave up to get it to sound proper. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and an octave is 12 semitones, so I'm just going to type in 12, and now the bass should be up an octave, and I'm going to play it. Sounds more proper to me now, at least from my recognition of the song. So now we've got both tracks playing, and I can actually turn the click on. I'm going to go ahead and turn my click down a little bit. Now, like, it's pretty funny at this point. If you wanted to, I'm just going to kind of do a little tangent here. If you wanted to, you could actually go into your browser at this point. You can go in and look at your sounds, and you can come into like your loops if you wanted to. Say you wanted to build a song based off of this chord structure that is used in this Michael Jackson song. Well, you could literally come in here and start basically looking for loops to throw in with this. So you can be like, oh, let's go for some drum loops down here. Okay, I'll just play this, and I can audition these in real time with it while it's playing. So if I play the song, now I can actually just double click on this. It'll actually So, I mean, if you were a bass player and you just wanted to replace the drums with some kind of cool loop to practice your solos, or if you wanted to practice groove and whatever, and you just want to remove the cheesy drums that are programmed, this is the easy way to do it. I mean, and like literally, I mean, all these loops will fit because they lock to the tempo of the song. Pretty intense. I mean, so okay, so anyways, back on track here. So you can do, and you can also just add these by simply just dragging them and dropping them onto their own new track. If you drag it down below everything, it'll actually create a new space for it, and then you can just hit D to duplicate it over and over again once you get it lined up in the right groove. So anyways, enough of the side note. So anyways, we'll go back on here and like say which one of these is this looks like it's going to be the melody. This looks like it's going to be some strings maybe. So let's go ahead and assign this one again to contact out. Channel 1, channel 2, now we're at 3. Okay, and then the next thing that we load up down here is automatically the next instrument you load in is going to end up being the next channel by default. So it's kind of cool that way. You don't have to stress out too bad about making sure your channels are going to be right, but it's easy to go adjust them afterwards. And then these also, one quick other note, you can actually collapse these panels down and make them smaller so that you just see your modules and what the pertinent information is you need to adjust them, if you need to make an adjustment. So we're going to the next one. I'm going to load up some strings out of this other library down here, and we'll just look at string sections, violins, and we'll do this violin lush. We'll see if this is the right Oh, no, I was wrong. That's actually the horn parts. So I took that out just by hitting the X up here in the corner and drop that instrument out. I'm going to close that down. I'm going to go into my first call horns here, and we'll go into sections, combinations, and we'll pick this one right here. Now we'll see if that sounds right. Yeah, so now we got the horns in there. So I think you get the point as far as how to build this. It's pretty simple. I'm adding in sounds. Each sound is equal to a MIDI channel, which is selectable here manually, or by default it's going to keep stacking them just sequentially as you build them, as long as you don't switch this one and go, oh, instead of 4 I'm going to make this one 6 or whatever. That's going to cause confusion for you. But if you just keep it in a standardized kind of a numerical value, you're pretty much just going to layer the tracks in there. And you don't have to use a sampler. You could choose to use, there's like a synth solo in this, you could choose to use another plugin completely. You could use a different synth module. One of the other built-in instruments that they give you, I think Mojito is a synth module, and there's a lot of like presets in here. You could just literally I'll just find this and we'll just try it just real fast, and then I'm going to jump ahead to the track that's already kind of been done, or pretty much is done. So this looks like it's like the busy part where that solo is. Okay, and this is the solo track right here. I could tell because it's got this little figure in here where there's like a flutter. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to drag, let's see, that's this bass lead. Try to see, here's JP lead. So I'm just going to drag this straight onto this track, and then now it's going to actually load that module up for the track. See, you don't have to use the contact player or whatever sampler. You can load individual instruments if you want. The less instruments you have, the less resources you're using, which Studio One is really low on resources, but now let's see what this sounds like on here. So anyways, I think you get the point on that, and that's the basics of how to set it up. Once you have it set up, you can basically come down here to the bottom to your last track and say, you can right click. There's a number of ways you can do it, but you can say add tracks. And at this point, like for me, I'd be making drum tracks, so you can choose your color if you want to make them a certain color, and then you can go ahead if you want to make a preset. There's lots of different options you have, but I'm just going to go ahead and create the tracks. And now what it's done is it's created my whole set of drum tracks. And now what I'm going to do is I've gone ahead and actually tracked some just utilitarian drums here. And then on the version I'm going to load up, I actually retract the bass. And one last thing I'm going to show you before we go out of this one is I'm going to go ahead and take all these MIDI tracks, group them together like this by shift clicking, and then I'm going to go ahead and pack them into a folder. And what that's going to do is it's going to actually group all those tracks into one little track lane, and then it's going to allow me to collapse it quickly. So now I've got room to do my drum tracks and so on and so forth. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and go back to the start page, and this is the actual file here that okay, so now what you're seeing now is this is my track that I've pretty much got more or less done. I've got my MIDI tracks up here in a folder packed away. I kind of labeled them out in here while I was working on it. Just labeling things is very good. It keeps you more organized. I've got things assigned to different channels. I did some switching around, so my channels are not numeric as I aforementioned, but I got it working to my satisfaction. I layered in a little guitar track, and basically, I cut it at the form, and I just let it duplicate over, and I chopped it up where I needed to. And then essentially, then what I did is I tracked some drums to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it for you without the drums. And then basically after that, I'll play it with the drums. So you'll hear it now with all the sounds replaced. I'm just going to play a little section of it. And this is with now real bass and just one little noodly cheesy guitar part that I hacked away at. So at any rate, so here I'll play it for you. Yeah, so it's pretty drastic difference. And now let's just say it's some time's passed, and I went ahead and I did some drums for this, and they're packaged in a folder as well, so that way I could create more space, or I guess actually rather use less space while I'm working. So now I can shrink those back down, and now I can see my guitar, my bass, and basically my whole drum set here, and track this through the audio box. Awesome new interface, and it pairs well with Studio One. I did some basic drum mixing. If you've seen my drum mixing video, possibly, basically went through the same process there. I added an effects bus so that here's my different outputs from Contact. So here I've got my different sets of outputs all feeding back into the mixer, so I have individual control over the audio path. And I can apply an effect, which I put in a convolution reverb with the open air. And this is a cool convolution reverb which samples space and gives you that feeling. I got a big empty club on here, and I just kind of let it in a little bit to give it a little more live sound. I did put a couple outboard processors on the master, multi-band dynamics and a limiter, just to keep it from peaking out, and fatten it up a little bit. So yeah, I will quit talking. I'll play a little bit of this with the drums, and I will bid you all adieu. So here you go. So I think you get the point. Pretty powerful, little cheesy file that you can find on many websites for free. It took me a little bit of time to do, and obviously this is the first time I ever tried this with Studio One. It was very easy. All the routing, how I showed you up here with the MIDI, and sending the tracks to the right channels of your plugin, having all that stuff correspond with your proper channels, proper instruments. Once you get that all figured out, which is fairly simple, you can build yourself all kinds of cool stuff, and the possibilities are endless with this, because you can edit these files just as you would edit anything else. So if you wanted to, take a bass line from one song and chop it up and make your own arrangement, the sky's the limit. Whatever your creative abilities or creative wants are, you can manipulate these files just like anything else. So, yeah. So thanks a lot for watching this video, and I hope you gained something from it. Take care, everybody.